Watching Kyle's unboxing videos again?
Yeah, he always finds the coolest... No way! A robot dog? Gotta ask where he got it.
Or use your Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Just draw a circle around the dog on your screen, and it shows you where to buy it right in the app.
Whoa, I just learned a new trick. And that for once, I beat Kyle to the next big thing.
Circle it, find it with the new Galaxy S24 Ultra and circle the search with Google. Get yours now at Samsung.com. Internet connection required. Results may vary based on visuals.
A fabulous free kick from Leighton Baines. Dawson, oh, what a finish from Glenn Dawson, it's 2-0. It's scored by Tim Cahill in injury time for Everton. Matheson, the 16-year-old, to Wilbraham, the 40-year-old. Stunning from James Rodriguez. And here into Henderson! And Ian Henderson, right on half-time.
Welcome everybody to episode 2 of the Men in Blue podcast. My name is Greg, I'm a Rochdale supporter. I'm here with Matt and Jimmy, who are both Everton supporters. How are you doing, lads? You okay?
Not so bad, yeah. Bit a bit cold this week, bit of snow yesterday, but all good, can't complain otherwise.
Yeah, good myself, pretty quiet. Lockdown life, as we all know it, carries on. Snowstorm for about 5 minutes.
The British weather will be on the news tonight that we had 5 minutes of snow, all the trains stopped. Absolute major panic. We don't tend to get much snow, as Matt will know. By the way, for those who listen, may not be aware that Matt and I are actually brothers.
Yeah, we don't sound like
it, or look like it, or even pretend to be brothers particularly. We try to dissociate from each other, really. We love each other deep down somewhere. But yeah, obviously being where we're from, surrounded by three sides of walls from the world, normally it doesn't often snow. So when we do, it's absolute frenzy.
So on Saturday, we had Manchester United 3, Everton 3 at Old Trafford. Matt, you watched that match. What are your thoughts about the result and the performance by Everton?
It was kind of a mad game. For the opening 20 minutes, as an Everton fan, we actually played pretty well. We didn't produce much in terms of going forward, but I don't think United ever really threatened us too much. And for some reason, for the last 20-25 minutes of the half, they just sat back and let them have the ball. It's poor defending for the first goal. I think Ben Godfrey's at fault, poor Michael Keane as well. But a good header, it's a great ball. I think it's Rashford put the ball in from the right-hand side. It's a really good goal. And then Bruno sticks one in the top corner at half-time. And I really am thinking, oh, well, another result at Old Trafford. What are we going to do? And in the second half, we came out with kicking the ball forward, which was a bit of a shock. We had a bit of a go. And 2 really good goals. A bit of luck with the first one with De Gea's not great goalkeeping. But the second one is a really, really good move. Hammers with a brilliant finish in the bottom corner. And then a free kick, which is a little harsh, but I can see why it's given, leads to McTominay putting one in the corner. Mistake from the keeper, which is always a bit of a shame to say, especially this season with Everton and Pickford and that kind of stuff. It looks like his foot just slipped a little bit, Olsen, as he's moving to his left. But after his performance away at Leeds in the week before, I'll give him a bad game. It happens to the best of them. And I was all set up for a hard-fought loss, and all of a sudden, in the last minute, Calvert-Lewin pips in, and it's seats.
Tom Davis in midfield, I've got to say, played brilliantly for 90 minutes. Someone gets a lot of sticks, pretty much sets up the first goal, helped by a bit of ineptitude from David De Gea. And the second goal was a really well-taken goal from James Rodriguez, ball in from the left. I think it's Lucas Dean. They don't clear it very well. Decore fizzes a ball back into it. It's a really good finish on the first touch. And I think that's what we've missed going forward, is that little bit of quality, which he showed. The third goal for United is a bit disappointing from the keeper's point of view. I think he slipped as he's moving to his left. Again, it's a good header from McTominay, but one that he would expect to save. But after the performance against Leeds, I think he really did help us get 3 points. I'll give him a bad game. It happens to the rest of them. And I think I was all set up for, what we gave it a go, but a few mistakes would cost us, and then we get a goal in the 95th minute with Calvert-Lewin. And it was a really good finish. It was a good ball in, knocked on by Keane, I think it is. And he just gets what he does best, which is just being in that right place at the right time. Sticks in the bottom corner, and it's one of those draws that feels like a win. If I was being ultra critical of the performance, it just felt like it was a great result to come back after going behind twice. But if we'd have been at them from the start earlier on, who knows what we could have done. But, you've got to be delighted with the draw at Old Trafford, especially the way they played this season. Having just beaten Southampton 9-0, I was going there with the fear of, oh no, they just scored 9, what's going to happen to us? But it just shows the confidence in that team. It also shows they've got a bit of grit, they've got a bit of determination. I think it's the first Everton side since probably David Moyes to have that, a real sort of, you know what, we're going to come at you and we're going to have the performances, and it's nice to see. But yeah, I'm delighted. Good point, Stephen. we go again.
Jimmy, what are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I must confess, I only watched the highlights of match today. Terrible supporter over here, but I promise to watch more games live. I think the first half kind of showed, obviously at the moment City are running away with it, but why we shouldn't necessarily discount Man United from potentially being a title contender. For years, they've been a bit of a, perceived as, not what they were. But look at the talent they've got. Obviously, the money they've spent, but the quality they've got going forward certainly is absolutely evident by that first goal with Rashford whipping the ball in and Cavani, who everyone's, he's passed it. Well, maybe a guy who's done it all around Europe and scored goals internationally for Uruguay the way he has, maybe he's got a bit about him. Maybe he knows where to be in the right place, the right time to pop up. He doesn't have to be, 19, 20 with legs running for days. He's looked after himself, and shades of him when Ibrahimovic went to Old Trafford. But you know what I mean? And the guy's not even that old. He's 32, 33 maybe. So I think he's done really well. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily rule him out of giving City a bit of a challenge this year. I wouldn't rule out a few sides still. Be 2 down at Old Trafford at half time. I think if the Old Trafford crowd had been behind them, I know they get slated sometimes, if there'd been fans in the stadium, I think United may have come out second half a bit more impetus. And in previous years, we'd have lost that game 3-4-0. We'd have been absolutely hammered. We'd have been hammered. There's been games where I remember, going back years ago, we held them out to the 80th minute. I think it was like 2002-ish. We held them out to the 80-odd minutes and then lost 3-0 in the last 10 minutes. I think Scholes scored an absolute screamer. It's going back a long, long time, of course. Very different teams back then. Great resilience and reminiscent of the 4-4 draw in 2012, which obviously was the only thing that handed Man City the title that year. I can't think of anything else that happened, anything particularly dramatic that may have given them a trophy. I think that 4-4 draw was what basically sealed it for them, right? Anyone? Yeah.
But that's what I remember. Yeah, that's what I remember.
I don't think there's any other iconic moments happened towards the end of
Who
the
is
season.
Sergio Aguero? You just don't know.
Sergio who?
Never heard of him.
It's all about Stephen Pienaar, mate, and Jelavic. Days in blue. If I'm going to be critical, and I am quite critical of this particular player, it's of Tom Davies. Now, he's been much, much better in the last since the turn of the year, and he's been slated by Everton fans, rightly so, for performances that have been subpar for the last few years. And I do think if he hadn't been a local boy brought through the club, and if he hadn't been the nephew of a former player, whose name escapes me at the moment, I'm sure somebody will remind me, Alan Whittle, there you go, then I think he would have been binned off a long time ago. But I think for the second goal, Fernandez's goal, both him and Olsen could do better. Personally speaking, I think if you close down on Fernandez, he either has to either pop, in which case his angle's been narrowed, or he has to go wide. At which point, then you've got, you go out wide to the right, you've got Luca Digne on the left hand side who can stop the cross. If you give him space, 20 yards out, he can pop one in from there. And even then, it's sort of, I know Olsen probably wasn't expecting it, but it kind of floats over him. And it's a bit like, oh, you could get to that, and same again with the third goal. But like you say, Olsen's been pretty good. I can't say 1 week, he scored competition for Pickford, and then come on here and say he's not good enough the next, because that's just going to contradict himself. So he is a good keeper. Every keeper makes mistakes, as we well know, as we saw this weekend in other games we'll get on to. I just think that the pair of them for Fernandez's goal maybe should have done a bit more to stop it, and maybe that's being hypercritical, because they both have been really good recently, especially in the game at Leeds, and hopefully, in games to come as well. Another thought, particularly on United, is how underrated is Scott McTominay? Do you think he's helped get Scotland to the Euros? He is basically the modern day Dan Fletcher, who himself was unbelievably underrated. I mean, I know this isn't like a Man United podcast, but he scored the goal last night to get United through in what I believe was an absolutely snooze fest of a game against West Ham in the cup.
It was tedious.
I can imagine. Like I say, I don't make a point of watching it particularly, and I'm glad I didn't. But I just think he's really, really underrated as a player, and I think he's brilliant. He's just one of those who seems to go about it. He seems to score every week. It feels like from holding midfield. Or again, let's comment on 3-3. It's a great game for neutral. It's a great result. Everyone see, Man United 3-3. 95th minute equaliser. That looks really good. Unless your team, as you know, Greg, because Rochdale until we'll get on to them, have had heart attack football results recently. 3-3. I go, what a game! You drew 3-0 with Crew, or 4-0 with whoever it was, Wigan or somebody. Yeah. But if you're involved in it, you just think, stop conceding.
Very rarely I watch Premier League games because I haven't got Sky and I haven't got BT Sports, but I bought a weekend pass and I timed it right because I think it was not a weekend pass, a day pass, but I think it was £10 for the day, but I managed to fit in 4 games, I think. So I did it just at the right time, and obviously I managed to watch Man United Everton. And from a neutral standpoint, Everton didn't have a right lot of the ball, but when they did, they made use of it.
Yeah.
But that's a good point sometimes. That can be a good part. That can be a good aspect of the game because you can sometimes have all the ball. Rochdale have done it before, and you do nothing with it. But they were clinical with the possession that they had. They made good good movements down, the channel and things like that. It's just something that I picked up on that as soon as they got the ball, right, they're doing something with it. And the first goal that Everton got, and then it was within a few minutes later that they got the second goal. They just kept plucking away, just kept plucking and kept going at it. When you look at it, Ancelotti, fair play to him because he stuck with that formation. As soon as they were 2-0 down, he could have thought, right, this isn't working. He stuck with it. And he must have known that something's going to come of this. And it kicked on a little bit. They just kept going and kept going. And there were no, fair enough they conceded 3, but it was a very good performance in terms of mentality-wise. It's something that I'd like to see Rochdale do in terms of when we're 2-0 down, we just need to go for it and just mentally keep it together a bit more. And that's what I noticed with Everton. They just kept going. Get to the end and obviously last minute equalised and it was fantastic. I did celebrate the goal obviously because I was like, oh, brilliant. But I was half waiting for the flag to go up, half not knowing what was going on for a good 5 seconds. I was like, are they going to give it? Is something gone off here? Is he offside even? I was about 5 seconds, I was like, they're not going to give this. It's Old Trafford. And then it just went, didn't it? And I went, oh, it's happened. I just had that gut feeling that, is it going to happen?
That's just football in 2021. I mean, it's VAR is a strange. We could have a whole podcast on VAR, and for a lot of it, I mean, this week in particular, naming things like red cards, Thomas Suchek for West Ham at the weekend. It is a strange mentality. I think as well being in the ground when a goal goes in, and it might be a VAR check. I mean, most famous that comes to mind straight away, I think, is City Spurs in the Champions League. 2-3 years ago, I want to say, a couple of years ago.
When Spurs got the final to 2019.
Yeah, 2019, that was a couple of years ago. And Sterling gets a last-minute winner, in inverted commas, and the goal's ruled out. And it in a weird way, it creates a brilliant bit of drama because you get that moment where City think they've gone through, and it's taken away. And it must be horrible being on the side of City, but to be a Spurs fan at that moment, wow, that's elation. We can talk about it as Everton fans in the Merseyside derby this year. A contentious offside, we'll see. Contentious, wow.
I don't think it was offside personally, but
to this day, I can't see how it's given offside, or I can't. It's so tight.
Same with that Southampton one against, was it Villa or something the other week?
There was one with Danny Ings, I think, or it was. And it is tough, but to be on the side of it where it goes for you, there is a real sense of relief. But I mean, going back to Jimmy's point about Tom Davies and the United's second goal. Yes, he does as close. There's actually probably a catalogue of errors that goes back. I think Carragher did a really good assessment of it. And he's talking about the back four. The back three, if you take out Lucas Dean because he's covering his man on the left-hand side, how they just don't get across enough, which means that Davis has to sit a bit deeper, which gives Fernandes a space. But I mean, I can't disagree with the points otherwise. I think Davis splits the fan base. I want him to do well. I really want him to do well because he's different. He's not your normal footballer. With his skateboarding and with his fashion choices and whatever else. I kind of like that about him. I like the fact that he gets the dials up. But interesting weekend. Very, very interesting weekend from an point of view.
I love how Solskjaer brought on Axel Twanzebe in the 94th minute. And to show that he should have given up 3-2, gives away the free kick for the goal.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Is that what happened?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Crikey.
Bless him.
He's, gosh. I'm sure there's a Man United player that were born in Rochdale.
Rochdale's week.
Wasn't a good result on Saturday. Lost 2-0. It's either the 10th or the 11th game that were conceded in the first 15 minutes. When you look at it like that, in my opinion, it's evident that we're losing our shape quite early on in the game. Because we're losing the shape so early on in a lot of games where we're conceding, it's such a mountain to climb sometimes so early on. You're having to switch from sort of one tactic that you might have already sort of tried to put in place to go into something else so quickly. Apparently, we've got the worst home record in the Football League. An argument to be made about home and away records this season. Do they mean anything this season? No. Does a home record mean anything? Does an away record mean anything?
Do they ever mean anything? Because
I would say so.
Well, I remember one time, or was it 1990,000 season, I think Coventry City finished, I think, distinctly mid-table, didn't win a single Premier League away game. So, yeah, you can say we need to move our away form into our home form, but you don't get any more points winning away from home at the end of the day, unless it's like Europe and you got away goals, which I still think is a ridiculous rule. It means less now than I think it did 10, 15 years ago.
I think it still applies to some teams. I'm looking at Everton's next away game. We've got to go to Anfield, which fans or no fans, they'll still find a way to lose. But still, Liverpool's it's ingrained in my DNA to dislike that club as much as possible. I have to admit, when the crowd is behind and they're fully up for it, that is the toughest place to go. Kind of taken back to what United used to. I think Old Trafford these days isn't quite as daunting a place as it used to be. But I still think home and record this season, home and away records, they apply somewhat.
Yeah.
I suppose as it's applying this year, you can see teams. What Everton's away form is insane. I think was it unbeaten in 6 away from home, which is just daft.
And I suppose as well, going back to Rochdale, Greg, a lot of your survival in League One, they're going way back under Keith Hill as well. You're beating teams like Leeds at home, Sheffield Wednesday at home, Southampton at home. Okay, you were double over Southampton at that time.
Yes.
But with Gary Jones and that, who's now a personal trainer on the world, can I just point out?
I noticed that.
The other day.
He's on Instagram. Yeah. I noticed that. I thought you would have...
Follow his personal training account. Gary Jones, if you're listening, please get in touch. We love you.
We love Gary Jones.
We do. We love Gary Jones. I'm sure he came to my gym once. Anyway, but yeah, I think you relied a lot on your home floor because you've only got a small stadium and you've got, a fairly small issue, what I'm saying, you average about 2,000-3,000 a week fan base. You get bigger clubs coming sort of to Scotland, and it's a bit of a shock for them in the nicest possible way. When you get your likes of your Ipswiches, your Sunderlands, your Forests, your Leeds, Sheffield Wednesday, they've all been in League One recently, or the last 10 years or so. So I think, whilst home and away form, I know it doesn't really matter. I think Rochdale have relied, I could be wrong, I haven't done the research, a lot on their home form, especially when you stayed up the other year. Was it beating Charlton last day or something, and then coming out of the relegation zone last year? It was quite a close one before the league was finished, and it was a lot of your home results that dragged you out of that mire.
Just going back to the home and away records, I know it's obviously we're saying there's not much of a gravitas with that this season, but surely can't be ecstatic about being worst at something.
No, in the football league as well, not even League One, the whole 72 football league clubs. That's not.
Obviously, I take on board other fans' expectations, other Rochdale fans' expectations, and I read Twitter and Facebook and got different group chats going on, things like that. But sometimes my expectations of the club are a bit more fluid in terms of where we are in the league, sort of factoring in what's going on around us a bit more sometimes. Like, for instance, 6 months ago, when I thought, we're not going to stay up, I can't really keep that mindset right now because of league positions and what's happening and new players. I sort of adapt my sort of expectations a little bit to what's happening right now. Going back to the game, bit surprised with a lot of BBM's starting players with his first 11, shall we say. I was a bit surprised that Keohane hadn't been picked to start, and I would put him in the top 5 consistent performers that we've got currently.
Yeah.
For some reason, he doesn't start against Charlton. I was a bit surprised about that one. But we do need to try and keep our shape early on in the game, so I don't understand how that can be a constant thing where we concede so many goals in the first 15 minutes. I don't know if it's a lack of concentration or if it's the players or there's some sort of communication that's not going on there, but it seems to be happening quite a lot.
So isn't it a case that teams think they can get at you in the first 15 minutes? If they know that this is a common problem, going to keep happening, where teams think they're going to come play Rochdale and think, right lads, first 20 minutes, get your goals, at least get a goal early on, knowing that either they're going to have more chances down the line to, with the high-scoring games you've had this season. Is that an issue? Is that something that you've noticed that teams just think, okay, first 20 minutes, if we get past that and haven't scored, then Rochdale are really in this, whereas if they get a goal or two early on, do the heads drop and that kind of thing as well? I mean, you tell me more. It's up to you.
It's happening against multiple oppositions, basically, and you've got to try and stop that somehow. Really, I think we're in a relegation dogfight, to be honest. We've now got 19 games left. I think we're 2 points clear of the bottom 4.
I've got, the moment you are in 18th on 26 points.
Yeah.
And Northampton are in 23rd on 24. There's a gap, 2 points between 23rd and 18th. That is so tight. That's unbelievable, isn't it?
Well, I think it's the bottom 7 that are quite close.
Yeah. Burton look quite gone at the moment. But from 23rd up to you and 18th, it is dead tight.
It is, yeah. And I was a bit surprised during the week that the results seem to be going for us in terms of they're getting beat and we're not picking up results, and everything's sort of staying the same a little bit. Very little movement going on in the bottom half of League One. We've signed these, energetic young players, but it's just making sure they're a little bit headstrong sometimes. I think they're all very good players in one way or another. They've all got a very good quality each somewhere, but it's just making sure that they've probably got the mentality for a relegation dogfight, really, because such young players, a lot of them as well. It's difficult. Lockdown, COVID, things like that. I'm not slagging them off by any means.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the highlights myself, and I thought you looked quite. I mean, it was only the highlights, but you looked quite defensive. And for both goals, it was like, just get rid of the ball. Just the ball seems to be pinging around the area. It was like, just get rid. And even then, Charlton hit the woodwork again and could have had even more from what I saw. And I meant to ask as well, really, do you think you've replaced? I know you had last season players that really impressed me with Reece Norrington-Davis and Sanchez, the keeper. I know they've gone back to their respective parent clubs now. I think Sanchez was in goal for Brighton for the weekend. Yeah. Do you think you've replaced them adequately? Because I know they really both impressed me when I saw you at Prenton Park. Well, going back, beginning of last season now, when you pinged it round and knocked it past Tranmere, like, amazingly. Looked like Barcelona, didn't you? Do you think you've really replaced those players? Or do you think, you're still lacking in defensive solidity, really? Well, you clearly are with the goals you conceded, but do you think it's down to key players not being replaced properly?
I think you're right. We did well to get Robert Sanchez. I think he's a very good goalkeeper for his age and where he's, obviously he's at Brighton at the moment. And there was an interview that BBM did a few months ago on the Rochdale AFC podcast. I'll include those boys. And BBM was on. He was talking about Sanchez and he was saying that he was so confident.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key thing with Sanchez. He is a confident lad. When I've watched a few of the Brighton games in the Premier League recently, and you can just tell he is oozing confidence. I don't think it's arrogance. I think he's very
confidence.
I think he's just very certain that I'm having this ball when he comes out for the corner and he grabs it.
I think it's a very good thing to have, because if you've got a defence which is notoriously shaky, if you've got that person behind you, that goes to all leagues. Look at the Premier League. I mean, as they say, the best attack starts with a good defence. And if you've got someone in goal who is commanding of that area, and a lot of teams are struggling to find that at the moment, they're trying to find that keeper who does that. And if you've got that player in your side who really does believe, it spreads to the rest of them. That confidence that really does bleed through to the rest of them. And that's a good thing to have, especially, as you say, when you're in a league which is a dogfight from top to bottom.
Yeah.
I really do believe the Championship and League One, League Two are the toughest leagues to be in, because you get the teams who come up from those leagues, let's say someone comes to League One from League Two, they've got a point to prove. And, it's not uncommon you see back-to-back promotions. You see teams who Tranmere did it from the National League up into League One, or they're now back in League Two. Mm. But if you get that system right, if you get those key elements of the side correct, and the keeper is one of the main things to get. If you can't replace that, it's a tough place to be.
It is.
And especially if you're relying on a younger keeper to come in who hasn't quite got that same confidence yet. It's a big ask. I mean, the point I'd make to you, Greg, is where you are at the moment. Are you where you expected to be? Or is it more a case of we've been below par?
Yeah, I expected to be near, the bottom 8, shall we say. I had a lot of good players leaving the summer. Ian Henderson, Callum Camps, a few others. Luke Matheson obviously went last January, I think it was now. But I think actually he's recruited very well, BBM. Obviously, I'm half repeating what I mentioned before. They are quite young. That's the only problem, that they're not quite as experienced as you'd like. We haven't really signed a lot of what you would call like a League One player. They're all youth team players from Manchester City, Arsenal, things like that. Which you can pull them together and you can get good energy and it can pay off sometimes.
Have you done what I would call the football manager technique of raiding Premier League teams, scouting players and hoping for the best? Because we've all done it.
Yeah,
it's not even trying to. We've all done it.
Yeah.
Well, scouting youth days and then.
Yeah, he has. He's got.
It's one of those where you need that league experience. And I think losing Henderson to Salford, I know we mentioned him last week, and just losing that bit of, you need that know-how to stay in League One as well. You need players that know that league. You can be very good in the National League, you can be very good in the youth leagues, you can be a good young player, you can be a quite experienced player in the League 2 level, but the step up to League 1 is as you know, witnessed last year, the Rovers is a bit of a gap. You know, as going up any division is. I think you'll be all right. I was going to ask the question. Do you think you'll go down? But it's too early to say. Really, it's far too late. But I think you've got just enough about you to stay up when you look at some of the other sides that are down there. But it could be one of those again, like with the Charlton game the other year, where you have to sort of stay on the last day kind of thing, which would probably be quite fitting given the heart attack football that you've witnessed this year and the score lines that ends up as in like a heart attack dramatic end of season type finale. But
obviously we haven't got a very big budget. We got a few, we got rid of a few players just pre-season. Obviously a few of them we couldn't offer them contracts, different money issues, things like that. Henderson was a top earner, Calvin Andrew was a top earner, Josh Lillis was a top earner, and Callum Camps was a top earner, and all four of them have gone. So
he's been brilliant for Fleetwood, Camps, hasn't he?
Oh, he's been absolutely fantastic.
You must be regretting letting him go.
He did play well the last 18 months. He did kick on a little bit. He was better than previous years. He did develop, and he was getting better, and he was scoring a lot more, and he was scoring great goals, things like that. And then he'd dip a little bit, and then he'd dip in and out of form, a little bit like how I mentioned Joe Bunny the other week. Chuffed for Camps. He's doing really well at the moment. Going back to the Charlton game, thing is with Charlton, they did play well, but I don't think they were like absolutely box office. They weren't unbelievable, and they did a bit more than Doncaster a few weeks ago. Doncaster sussed us out and just figured out what they just needed to do just to get the result. They didn't really have to bust the gut to get the 3 points. It was sort of like smart football, smart tactics in terms of, if you can apply that. I think that's I've seen a lot of teams in League One do that this season. Doncaster did it when we played them away from home. You could tell that they hadn't really kicked in a gear. I think Charlton did that on Saturday as well. Just they played a little bit better than Doncaster, but they didn't need to break a sweat basically. Then that's great tactics probably.
Yeah, I think this season of all seasons, game management's far more important, I think, than the actual performance. But the game's coming thick and fast with the COVID situation the way it is. If you can get by just knowing how to do enough and how to perform enough to beat teams, like clearly Charlton have done, and then go on to the next game still with energy in the tank, still with, a lot to give, then absolutely there's no point burning yourself out winning 5-0 against the team towards the bottom end of the table if you then go and play another side 3 days later and get walloped 5-0 because you're absolutely exhausted. It's about how you manage your squad, how those players manage each game. Obviously tactics come into it, of course, they do like with anything, but I think this year it's all about how the players on the pitch actually, cope with the game and how they actually, they manage themselves as well. I think Charlton are a funny one because they've had quite a few changes, haven't they, in the squad since coming down. They've had a few financial problems. They don't look, whenever I've seen highlights of them, they don't look like a team that's just come down from the Championship compared to, like, say, Hull, who are doing pretty well at the top end of the league. Yeah, like I say, I don't watch enough of Charlton Athletics to really comment.
It's funny you should mention that. Hull are second at the moment. Charlton are sixth. They are in the last playoff place, if you will. At the moment, they are anyway. I'm just looking at the top of the division. I don't really look at the top of the division, which is a sad thing to say, really, but
haven't needed to do that for a while, have you?
No. So obviously it's Lincoln are doing well. We got Hull,
Lincoln have been amazing,
Peterborough, Portsmouth, Doncaster, and Charlton. Going back to what I mentioned before about Doncaster and Charlton, we played them both, and I don't think they didn't really need to break a sweat, the pair of them, both teams even. So get the results and not be knackered and move on to the next game because they're coming thick and fast, these games. Tuesday, Saturday.
And if you want to write in, tell us who you think's going up from League One, please let us know. I quite fancy Lincoln to do it personally. Speaking of games coming thick and fast, wasn't long for Dale to have a quick turnaround with a home game against MK Dons. Greg, how did that go?
Yes, so obviously I watched that one as well on the iFollow. I tweeted, I said we're going to concede in the first 15 minutes, and we did. Josh said 10th, and it happened in the 5th. He was the closest.
Right, okay, got you.
It was a disappointing game. A lot of Dale fans were saying it's a must-win game, this, because I think at the time they were just slightly above us, MK Dons, and it was sort of... It was a bit of a 6-pointer, but obviously they've gone straight up with that win on yesterday. Same copy and paste scenario in terms of collapsing early on, in terms of going in early, that goal. We had a decent 10 minutes where Matty Lund scored, and Matty Lund has been an absolute revelation this season. I think he's scored 12 goals in all competitions. Just collapsed in the second half.
3 goals in 8 minutes, isn't it?
Yeah.
The season, isn't it, really?
That's what screams to me was the goals from Jules Fraser and then Big Cameron Jerome from the 55th to 62nd minute. That's that's worrying more so than conceding the first 15 minutes. If that becomes a habit where you concede, your heads go down, to pull it back to 1-1 and you just collapse in the space of 7 minutes or so, then that's, for me, a real concern, because I don't think 4-1 was an accurate reflection of the game from what you've said, and from looking at sort of the stats and that, it doesn't seem like you deserve to lose 4-1, but there we are,
I don't really keep track of MK Dons, but they've got Cameron Jerome and they've got Will Grigg, which I was a bit surprised about.
Andrew Sermon as well, midfield.
Yeah, that's another one. And they're signing these type of experienced players that I would love at Dale, really, but I'm assuming that, our finances, we can't get these type of players. But in terms of experience,
you've got Paul McShane.
He's injured. That's the only problem. He's a very good player when he comes on. He is very assertive in defence, and he steadies everything. But he's not played for a while, which is disappointing, really, because he is, when he plays, everything is. I was a bit surprised that we didn't play Keohane and McLaughlin, because they're both, they're very different types of fullbacks. But if you're playing against Will Grigg and Cameron Jerome, I know you can say, one's past it, one's not. You don't hear about the other as much, things like that. You do need good fullbacks to try and just track them or follow them or keep an eye on them. And Keohane and McLaughlin, I think if you'd have started one of them, I would have started the pair of them. I think they'd have kept an eye on Cameron or Will. Just seemed a bit of a strange starting setup again. I don't know if he was overthinking it and over-preparing, thinking that could happen and this could happen. But straight off the bat, fans, the ones that I'm on the group chat, we were just wondering, why is Keane not playing? Why is he not playing? Such a thing. Just seems a bit of a not quite a mismatch starting 11, but just an unusual way to set up against two experienced or well-known strikers. It was just a bit of a strange one. It was heartbreaking to watch at the end, because, like you said before, Matt, there was 3 goals in 10 minutes or 8 minutes, something like that, and you could just see it developing. And as soon as they got the bit between the teeth, MK Dons, that was it. Then they were going for it. We just need to try and keep the shape. There is promising play when you see Humphreys go with the ball, and then Morley can do the long shot, and he's looking for something. He's trying to create something. He's only young like Morley. I've got a lot of time for Morley. You can see what they're trying to do. It's just trying to... You said it last week, Jimmy, actually. Just get the 1-0 win.
Yeah, just shut up shop and try and score. It sounds simple. And it's a funny one, really, with you guys. I mean, I'm just looking at the lineup here, and I could be wrong. It appears to me like BBM went 4-4-2, according to this. And he's got Connor Shaughnessy in midfield, who I've got noted down as a defender. Now, whether that's because he'd actually played a fifth defender or something, I don't know, but it said Connor Shaughnessy had the least touches of 36 of any outfield player to play in the 90 minutes of the game.
That's worrying.
If he's a centre mid, okay, he's a defender playing centre mid. That's a concern if he's got the least touches. Would you have started, given the form he's been in, would you have started Kwagware Bar instead?
Yes. Going back to the player that you just mentioned, we just signed him about 2 weeks ago from Leeds. I mean, you could say he's been chucked in the deep end, possibly, in terms of, right, you start and get on with it. We need to... must-win game, so maybe he has been dropped in a little bit. I'm not going to go too far with any criticism with that player particularly just yet. But
But he's up against the midfield 5 as well. It seems Scott Fraser's playing behind Will Grigg and Cameron Jerome, and they had a midfield 4 that seemed to dominate the game. It seems from I'm just going off what I'm looking at now. I just think square pegs, round holes, and if players aren't getting touched in the middle of the park, then it's clear to see where the issue is.
It's something that I didn't particularly pick up on. I didn't think he had a poor game, but when you look at stats, stats do jump out. Obviously, like the stat that we are the worst home record in all football league. They do stand out, these stats, and they are going to be talked about. Twitter wasn't happy last night with Dale fans and the result, and BBM out. We need this. This was much needed win, and we needed to get something, and it was completely the opposite to what the fans were wanting or expecting or hoping for, really. It was a turning point.
Yeah, and that's it. If you're not sure of things off the back, then how long until the manager gets questioned, really, for his decisions? I mean, it's a tricky one. I know he's been a great servant to the club as a player as well as a manager, but how long can you persist with? I mean, okay, unfortunately, with the way the world is, you can't afford to necessarily be paying managers off right now, but how long can you persist with conceding 3-4 goals a game?
Just looking on Twitter about an hour ago, Bristol Rovers have sacked the manager, and Northampton have sacked the manager.
They're both down there as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
Who was the Bristol? That wasn't Tisdale, was it?
Yes.
Bristol Rovers manager.
Yeah,
Paul
Tisdale.
Yeah.
And the Northampton was Keith Curl.
Yeah. So they've both gone.
He's done a good job, Keith, getting them into League One, considering they came 7th last year in League Two. They're both down there, aren't they? So it's getting to that time now that it's coming toward mid-Feb. You know, that time of the season where clubs will start to worry about relegation and it's becoming a very real threat. They've budgeted for League One or whatever league they're in. I don't think that many sackings this season because of COVID and clubs having to pay off managers and what have you. I think now that we are going to see an increase in managerial changes. We've probably seen a lot more than we can think of, but what I think we're going to see in the next month or two, we've had the end of the transfer window, stuff like that. I think we're going to see a few more managers go, and I don't know if BBM's safe. Who is it on Saturday then?
Wimbledon away from home, which is a huge game, really, when you think about it.
That's massive.
I think we need to win that.
It's a bit of a 6 points. So they're down there as well, aren't they?
They are. They're.
You get to visit. Well, you don't get to visit, unfortunately, because no supporters, but they get to visit Wimbledon's new stadium, which looks really nice. Plough Lane.
Looks very good.
It's a fantastic little stadium.
It does look good.
Looks of it.
Wimbledon 19th, 25 points. Rochdale 18, 26 points. It's a big game, really.
Yeah, it's a real
big game.
It's
huge result.
I don't want BBM out. I think he's a great guy and he's got He's got good tactics. It's just one of those where it's a bit similar to the team that he puts out. He's just inexperienced half the time, and that's going to happen with an inexperienced manager. He's only 42, something like that. There is a game happening tonight, and I think we're close to kick-off, actually.
In about half an hour, so...
Teams are out. We have gone as full strength as possible.
Good.
From what I can gather, the only name missing, or two names missing from Everton, Pickford is still not fit, and Hammers is not playing, which I think was alluded to yesterday. I think Carlo did say in his press conference that it was touch and go. Wilson in goal, I'm assuming it's going to be a back four. Ben Godfrey at right back, I imagine Keane, Jerry Mina and Lucas Dean, Bicore and Davis and Sigerson in midfield, with Iwobi, with Charlton and Calvert-Lewin up front. Yeah, it's slim on the bench. Range that names 7 out of 9 subs, and that's been 2 goalkeepers.
Oh, you've got Tyler Onyango on the bench.
Onyango, I think it is. Bernard will come on, and Kunku might come on, depending on. Obviously, the only issue this is going to be in a cup game. This will go extra time penalties, which I don't trust that side to go 12 minutes. But Spurs, I've got their side up to Harry Kane on the bench, which again...
Kane is on the bench, that's right. I thought he was suspended personally, but there you go.
No, he came back the weekend, didn't he? He scored against
West
Brom.
That's right, yeah. You got Lloris in goal, Ben Davis, Alderweireld, Davinson Sanchez, and Matt Doherty as a back four, with Ndombele and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg holding. And then across, they've got a very strong front four line with Lucas Moura, Eric Lamela, Stephen Bergwijn, and then Heung-min Son up front. Thankfully, no Andre Gomez in the Everton team to match up that little rivalry again.
I don't.
It's coming back, that little... Oh, it was horrible, wasn't it? But I think both sides have gone, with the exception maybe of Kane, the Spurs have gone maybe as strong as possible. But if you look at their bench, they've got Ali and Eric Dyer. Harry Kane, Sissoko, Tanganga, Vinicius, all on the bench at Tottenham. Whereas, look at ours, it's a bit worrying. I don't know who you bring on. Bernard, maybe. I mean, when you've got Yao Virginia Mountain High on the bench, I mean, that's saying all, isn't it? I mean...
I think it's okay. I mean, it's two teams that have taken the cup seriously. I think they know it's the best chance of where do I think we can do it? Yes. But the longer the game goes on, I do fear
we need to,
if they're going to start bringing on Harry Kane with 20 minutes to go, and we can bring on, Frenchton looks a really good midfielder, but Tyler Onyango, it's not quite the same level as
absolutely not.
A player that I think of. But you know what? It's a cup game. Anything can happen. It was a shock last night. Bournemouth being burned. That was a shock.
Yeah, we need to come at the traps early, really, and really come at them, because we've got a lot of defenders on the bench and they've got attacking flair to come off the bench. And I do think if we're going into the game, we're going in the last 20 minutes, say, behind, I don't see us clawing it round with the changes we've got to make. Exactly. Tired legs, we need to really get 2 ahead. And then it's got to be a case of, I can see the last 10, 15 minutes being game management, back against the wall job, which is what Everton do pretty well, weirdly, this year. Game at the Leeds game, I know somebody commented about how we got away with 3 points at Elm Road. I can't remember who it was now. And they're absolutely right. Yes, we have stolen a few points late on in games. Obviously, the United game as well recently, but there's been games we've watched for the last 10, 15 minutes. We've gone, how have we won that? We've just gone back to the wall. But in previous years where we'd conceded, we've done really well at shutting up shop late on.
Yeah, they can dig in.
If you include VAR decisions going our way as well. But we really need to come out and hit them first half, because I don't see, as you say, Matt, the game goes on longer. I think Spurs will have the better of it, and we need to have a buffer to sort of keep them out.
I think it might be similar to United and West Ham last night, where West Ham didn't quite have the firepower. I mean, they got to extra time, but they didn't really threaten for 120 minutes. And United, albeit weren't great, and when they got their chance, they scored. I don't see us really looking to see the Charlton's Jura performance. He's been admittedly by his own standards below par recently. Calvert-Lewin's been back on the goals.
Good.
3 in his last 2, which is perfect for us. And they've also got the knowledge, they're not actually playing now until Sunday evening. We've got Fulham on Sunday night, so we've got the extra 24 hours.
And it's still a home game as well, so
it's a home game.
Travel involved and struggling, so we'll see. But,
and then after that, we've got a tough week, having to play City and then go to Liverpool on the Saturday night, I think.
That sounds difficult.
Which is going to be interesting week. The weird thing is, if by some sheer miracle they come out of those games with 6 points, we go up Liverpool, I think, which is mental. I know you can imagine being anywhere near.
All we have to do is beat City, beat Liverpool, beat Fulham. We're back in the title race.
Easy.
Exactly.
Sounds easy.
It becomes a 3-horse race. 4-horse race. I don't give up.
Yeah, let it on.
Exactly. I mean, do I see it? No. I think the best we're going to hope for is points in this game. I'd bite your hand for points at Anfield, and I'd bite your hand for points against City. They look unbelievable moments. Phil Foden looks a player.
He is.
The Stockport Pirlo or
Stockport Messi.
Yeah, why not?
Stockport Messi.
His goal on Sunday was
so good, to be fair.
Beautiful. It was, even as an Everton fan, not the fact that it was Liverpool, could have been against us. I sat there and gone, yeah, fair play, good goal.
Before we move on, Matt, sorry, question really, obviously just for you. Maybe the last chance to get to ask this question based on whatever happens tonight. Given the choice, I saw someone on Twitter, I can't remember who put it up, I apologise, I responded to them on Twitter. They asked, if you're an Everton fan, would you prefer 4th place, or top 4, I should say, or winning the FA Cup this year? Now, obviously, by the end of tonight, we may not have a choice. Would you take a top 4 finish, as in 3rd, 4th, or winning the FA Cup?
For me, FA Cup, because it's not a side I think is ready for Champions League football yet. I think Europa League, yes. I think we wouldn't go and win it, but I think we do a good account of ourselves. And I think the fact that it's been 26 years needs something. We just need a cup either way. I'd take anything at the moment.
I'd win a tin of beans, put some blue ribbons on the moment as a parade, and just be like,
whatever.
Yeah.
Would you win a half-time raffle?
As long as it involves going to Wembley, it's a major fine.
Yeah.
Whatever. Give a toss.
So we can celebrate a trophy, some silverware.
I think the cup, I think Carlo appreciates
that. Yeah, he does, to be fair.
And anything in the league at the moment is going to be a bonus. If we do get us on the top 4 place, fair play, because it's not a sign that we're back to get top 4, but definitely top 7, top 8, depending on obviously how cups go this year, that kind of thing. If we can maybe blag our way to Europa League spot.
Get back into Europe, I'll be happy, but with our trophies and the number 1 target, which obviously then gets you into Europe. And then
you always look at every season, if you can get yourself some European football and either a cup run or a cup either way, you can look at it as a pretty good season.
It's sort of like box ticked, isn't it? In one sense, it's sort of a...
I'd agree in that an FA Cup win would be celebrated for years and years and years. We still remember, well, obviously we don't remember, but we still hear about the 95 finals, say about the 95 semi-final against Spurs at Elm Road, and McCatchy and all that. Whereas how often now, and you and I know, Matt, we were half-season ticket holders in 2005, how often do you hear about us eulogising about the time we finished 4th ahead of Liverpool and in the
I mean, there was the slight issue that season. Liverpool went to win the Champions League.
Well, that's exactly it. No one remembers the fact that we came 4th on the Moyes with Marcus Bent or James Beattie and all that team. What was Liverpool won the European Cup that year? And how was like the most dramatic of European Cup finals. But also because we were booed out of 2 European competitions by September. We lost a very good Villarreal team.
Yes, I remember that.
Utterly humbled against Dynamo Bucharest, which I still can't get my head around how we managed to get so badly done by that. We were in the bottom 3 at Christmas, And it was only a last-minute win at Sunderland that turned our season around on New Year's Eve, I think. So that was a disastrous season after coming fourth. So to be honest with you, I know obviously we came fourth now. We wouldn't be kicked out of Europe in September because you go straight into the group stage. No one remembers you if you finish second, basically. That's the saying, isn't it? Pretty much, who said it. True. No, certainly no one remembers if you finish fourth.
We've had a lot of not near misses, but a lot of chances to get there. You know, look at this season. We've had a few chances. The 2009 Cup final.
Really.
You know, League Cup semi-finals, Chelsea, again. I do think they bottled that second leg.
2016 semi against United, missed a penalty.
Exactly. Also, we've had the semi-final against Liverpool. We've had, you name it, we've got close.
We've got close, but no cigar in it.
It'd just be nice to be able to go and sit there and go, look at that, we've won this, and I remember it.
Like a bit of cardboard and tin foil, stick it in under like a pile of sad sacks, get the blue and white flags out, because we've seen the red and white flags out often enough in the last few years. Obviously, tin foil trophies and whatnot. You know, it'd be nice to do it ourselves.
There's a bit of sad news to report, actually. Ex-Dale manager Tony Collins has passed away on Monday. He was the first black football manager in England. Rochdale appointed him, I think it was 1960s. Tony led Dale to the 1962 League Cup final. And to this day, it ranks as only one of two League Cup finals to have a fourth-tier side in the final. I think the other one's Bradford, isn't it, Jimmy? Is that right?
It is Bradford in 2013 against Swansea.
And that was Gary Jones.
That was Gary Jones, yeah.
Tony was a pioneer, really, in the game. Sad news for the club that he's passed away. There's something that I'd just like to add to this, that the cup final, that 1962 cup final, my granddad Jim went to that cup final. The first leg was at Spotland, and then the second leg was at Carrow Road. So my granddad went to a cup final at Spotland. I bet you didn't know that Spotland held a cup final.
The one thing I had this week was nothing newsworthy, but I was just really pleased to see the Premier League and the FA this week bring in concussion substitutions. And it feels like a long time coming, and it feels like it's a really good place that we're going through. But it was nice to see. It's not nice to see last night, but it was. I think yesterday up and off for Spurs at half time, and it's good to see that finally they're taking some action with it and seeing that teams aren't being penalised and the players' safety in particular is at the forefront of it, and it was good to see. It was a nice thing. It was a welcome change after all the VAR controversy and the offside rule, and the offside flags, and whatever else. It was good to see a change come in that was actually, I would welcome. That's where I can put it.
It sounds
like that this week.
Yeah, it feels like a turning point, doesn't it? A little bit that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It seems daft. You can't look at it and think, why hasn't this been a thing for? Yeah. Rugby's had blood subs for as long as I can remember. It just kind of made sense. It was like, of course, if it's something which is out of a player's control, and if it is an accident, and it looked a pretty nasty blow ahead between him and I think it was Anthony Martial last night. I think Martial came up with a pretty big egg on his head at the end of it. Yeah, these things should be in place, and it seems daft that we're at this point of view. I mean, they're talking about obviously restricting how much the players head the ball because there's a lot of talk about dementia. I think it was Alan Shearer, I think, that did a documentary on it a couple of years ago for the BBC, which, definitely a turning point. And I think it's something that hopefully now breeds further changes into player safety, and we're not hearing about horror stories of players down the line.
My little story of the week isn't actually football related. No, it isn't really. Is that Matt and I have recently just become uncles. Well, step-uncles for the very first time. On Friday, our stepbrother Joe and his wife Eve gave birth to a lovely little boy, Connor Bowden. Weighed £6 12 ounces I've got here. I've not met him yet, obviously, but our mum, I should say, has met him, and he's absolutely delightful. So watch out in the next 18 years or so with the future Liverpool centre forward. Joe, of course, been a massive Liverpool fan. It's just a really nice moment for the family, and amongst all the rubbish that's gone on the last year or so, it's just some really exciting news for us as a family, really. It's like I say, it's only personal, it's nothing football related, but it's just brought a smile to my face this week that there's a little one in the family, and it's been a long time. We haven't got many kids in the family. Not even a week old yet, and he's getting his name mentioned on the podcast, so
brilliant,
good stuff.
Just a similar shout out actually to my friends Eddie and Leanne. They've got a baby girl born today, so Eddie texted me this afternoon. Eddie, Leanne and Brooke and Phoebe, superb news really. So obviously we're doing a lot of announcements this week with the doing a lot of baby announcements.
Yeah, next week on The Crash with Matt, Jimmy and Greg.
There's a fundraiser at Rochdale AFC. David Clough, who's passed away unfortunately, he's left his entire estate to the club. such an incredible gesture when you think of it. It's unbelievable. So some of the fans have started a fundraiser for him to have a statue made of him. I think they're trying to have it so that it will be in the seats that he used to sit in. The fans so far, and some of the ex-players as well, have chipped into the fundraiser. They've raised $9,000 so far, which is unbelievable. Luke Matheson's put some money in as well, who used to play for Rochdale. It's just an incredible gesture from David, obviously, and everyone that's trying to sort everything out for this statue. So if anybody would like to donate to David's I think it's a Just Giving page. I think it's called the Just Give page. I'll try and put the link on our Twitter page.
Absolutely.
It's just something that's quite a unique thing, obviously, to have fan statues. I wasn't too sure if any of you two knew anything about any clubs that have fan statues in Spain or anywhere.
I don't think there is. I know Derby have got a Steve Bloomer statue, I think, or a little bust in the tunnel. But one that strikes me was when Matt and I went to, and this isn't football related, went to Boston and the Boston Red Sox, Fenway Park. There was a red seat or a different coloured seat in honour of a gentleman whose name, you can research this online, a gentleman who was hit with a ball that obviously during a baseball game and obviously died. And that was his season ticket seat at the Fenway Park. So they've kept that seat one colour and the rest are all a different colour. So it's similar type thing at Fenway. Wow. I can't remember exactly what it is, but obviously if you've been, you'll know what I mean. You can look it up online, I'm sure. It's all to do with Fenway Park. But apart from that, I can't think of anything that's got a statue inside the ground. And I'm sure that if anyone, like I say, send them over, if anyone knows, South America, guaranteed, yeah. I mean, there'll probably be a statue of Maradona inside Boca Juniors ground at some point. Or at the Argentinos Juniors Stadium, of course. Or
Possibly.
But, just like I say, anyone who's got any photos or anything, or any proof of any statues inside a stadium, then please let us know, because, that'd be something to look at. Definitely, we can do a few shout-outs next pod if we get any responses.
Yeah, it's just unusual to have like a fan statue, I thought. You know, you hear a lot about managers and players and people that, you know, on that type of calibre, but something I've never heard of before. It's quite unique. I could have swore that I heard one in Spain somewhere, but I'm going to have to do a bit of digging. But also that can be for the listeners if they want to send us anything, any information about fan statues or even fan tributes that are near stadiums. That's something that we can try and talk about at one point, because it's quite a unique thing, isn't it?
I'm not sure if like Leganes or Athletic Bilbao or somebody has got something. I know Leganes did put like shirts, I think, on the season ticket seats of any of the Leganes season ticket holders who died of COVID. But obviously, that's only something recent. But I don't know. I'm sure there'll be something, I'm sure. But I can't put it on my head now. Where can you follow the Men in Blue podcast, Greg?
It's just Men in Blue podcast on Twitter. I couldn't quite get the handle right. I don't know what the hell happened there. I'm just trying to get there we go. So it's at Men in Blue Pod CA1. I don't know if that's a generic thing that Twitter came up with, but I had no say in that. But
and if anyone's got anything that CA1 could mean, we'll make it up. We'll go with that. Yeah.
It's like a car registration almost.
Yeah, or
There you go.
There you go. We've got it. That's the one. And he's number one. He is the best. So it's CA1. That's where it comes from. I knew that was something.
You knew you'd done it, Greg.
I bloody knew it. Thank you all for listening. And if, like Jimmy said, if you've got any questions, fire them at us on Twitter. Men in Blue Podcast, #MIB Podcast. And thank you all very much for listening.
Sports Social Podcast Network.